Hey everybody, welcome back to Hard for Games. I'm your host, Tony. If you've been watching the show, you know that our last episode was a ROM hack starring Donald Trump. I wanted to go ahead and move away from that, bring it all the way full circle back around to everybody's favorite topic, Zelda Ocarina of Time. Now, we don't often talk about projects here that focus on like remodeling or retexturing characters in Zelda, or really like any game for the most part. Generally, especially with Zelda, it's like recreating beta areas or possibly attacks, or if Link looks different at all, it might be like a slight color change to his tunic or something to that effect. And it isn't because we're not interested, it's just that we haven't really been super exposed to those type of mods until now. So enter Skylar Babcock's mod. It is Twilight Princess Link in Ocarina of Time. Check this out. The detail here is actually pretty incredible. He's remodeled and retextured Link to fit a Twilight Princess aesthetic, but it actually looks really good in Ocarina of Time. Now, in a couple moments, I'm going to show you some alternate versions of this, including Young Link and also including Link in the magic armor and one other aside from that. But first, I wanted to go ahead and read this quote from him so you can kind of get an idea as to the genesis and reasoning behind the project. The reason I decided to make this mod is because Twilight Princess Link is my favorite Link design. I thought, how would he be in Ocarina of Time? Would he fit? Unfortunately, there had already been an attempt at Twilight Princess Link using the GameCube model, and it stuck out like a sore thumb. For one thing, it was too dark looking, and for another, it was higher poly than everything else. So I thought to myself, I'm an artist, why don't I make something that fits? And that's where this mod spawned from. I created my own Twilight Princess Link model in a Nintendo 64 aesthetic, and I did the same with the sword and shield. And because I was creating my own models, I was able to include Young Link. I took a scrap design from Hyrule Historia that looked like Young Link for Twilight Princess, and I based it around that. Another thing I did for Young Link is I made his design a lot simpler, like the Kokiri tunic, so that when you become an adult, the new detailed tunic looks like an actual different tunic, and it fits the hero you are to become. I've also been working on the voice for Adult Link, and I've gone through careful comparisons to make sure the voices I was using fit, instead of just me taking random Twilight Princess voices and putting them over Link's normal voice, like a lot of people do. Those usually just sound awful because the voices don't blend together in action, so I made sure to pay attention to that little detail. And so this was born. I also made it so Young Link could use the Hylian shield one-handed, and Adult Link had a wooden shield to have the Twilight Princess design of using multiple swords and shields. The best part about this is it's console compatible. So let's break this down. What he's saying about the aesthetic is definitely true. When you take a look at this, it looks really good. It really doesn't look too out of place. And the only reason why you think it might look out of place is because, well, myself and pretty much everyone is used to the actual model that they used, and not this one. But once you get used to it, I think it actually looks better. Especially on an emulator. Reason being, you can up-res and blow up your polygons to be super crisp on an emulator. Now granted, your pre-rendered backgrounds and your textures don't always fare quite as well, but basically playing Zelda Ocarina of Time on an emulator is a much cleaner experience. But on an emulator, I've always sort of felt that Link's original model kinda, I don't know, stuck out a little bit, I guess. And this actually is a really nice replacement for that. It seems to add a nice level of detail that corresponds with the up-res environments. He also mentioned Link's voice, so let's go ahead and compare. And of course, there's also the shields that he mentioned. So here's Adult Link using the previously Young Link only Deku shield, but it's been remade to be the wooden shield from Twilight Princess, the Ordon shield, or Ordon, or Ordone, or I don't care. And here's Young Link using the Hylian shield. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and take a deeper look at Young Link. Now, he's a little bit more cartoonish with his very large hands. At least, to me, he appears that way anyways. But I like it. It's a nice change of pace. I think between the two of them, I do like the Adult Link model a little bit better, but this still works for what he's going for. Now, Skylar also mentioned that this was compatible on actual N64 hardware, so let's go ahead and test that. Turns out it is. Now keep in mind, my game capture is not with an Ultra HDMI modded N64. Instead, it's using an RGB modded N64, outputting to a professional grade SCART cable, and then line doubled by my OSSC. So it's way better than like composite or S-Video, but it's not gonna be quite as crisp as the best quality you can get from an N64 when modded. Just so keep that in mind. But obviously, regardless, it's a stark contrast between this and the emulator. And here we have the Majora's Mask jumping and flipping, which I always thought was pretty cool. I'm glad they added that to this. Now, there are also going to be potentially, if they get done, sort of no promises sort of thing, it's a proof of concept right now, but 2 additional tunics for Link, which I'll show you right now. Now, the first one is my favorite of the 2. It's the Magic Armor. If you remember from Twilight Princess, the Magic Armor gives you invulnerability, but it costs you a ton of money. It's like 2 rupees per step or something to that effect. Now, in this mod, it doesn't make you invulnerable, and it doesn't cost you rupees. But it does look awesome, and like the Twilight Princess tunic will replace the regular green tunic, ideally, this will replace the red tunic if finished. It looks especially good on an emulator. You can really kind of get in there and see the detail, which is really nice. Playing this on the console, however, you kind of realize why the original developers went with simpler designs for Link and also the NPCs. So a lot of your NPCs are only a couple of colors, or like, you know, just one color for their torso, another color for their legs, that kind of thing, right? It's simple, low color quantity. Because you get into an area like this, like Kokiri Forest, where the textures are really busy, and you kind of need simpler NPCs and simpler player characters to pop and provide contrast against this busy background. Here the Magic Armor looks kind of muddied, and it's just too much going on for the poor N64's 240p output to really handle well. Now that said, it working on original hardware is awesome, but it isn't really the intention of this, so most people would end up playing this on emulator, where it's perfectly fine. So it's kind of a moot point, but I just thought I'd mention it. So next up is the Zora armor. This will replace the blue Zora tunic in Ocarina of Time and provide underwater breathing, although that underwater breathing functionality isn't in the mod just yet. It's not quite as crazy looking as the Magic Armor, but there's still a nice degree of detail and polish here. So the goal is at least to have the first tunic, the Twilight Princess green tunic, out relatively soon. Him and his team still have some finishing touches to do, as it is with any project, but you can keep up with the project on his YouTube page. So I'm going to go ahead and put a link in the description below. I'll put his handle on screen here. Check it out. He's supporting Hard4Games. I'd like all of you to support him. And of course, also want to do a shout out to his team. So what do you all think about this mod? Is this something that you would play? Let me know in the comments below. And aside from that, I appreciate all of you watching, subscribing to the channel, clicking that notification button so you know when our videos are coming out. And we'll see you guys next time. Cheers, thanks again.